Battleship. 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 Milton Bradley's great game of strategy. It's loaded with action and suspense. Play it anytime, anywhere.
B4. Hit. J1. You missed. J10. Oh, you struck my battleship.
Battleship.
Welcome to episode 54 of the Music Relish Show. I'm Mark with Lou and Perry. Tonight, we're going to talk about an REM album that people may have forgotten about called New Adventures in Hi-Fi. We're going to talk about hated albums from bands. And we're going to have lots of random relish and trivia, my favorite. And just to say, that Battleship ad, that would never work today, that game, because it depended on honesty to admit that your battleship was sunk.
That's right.
So how's it going, guys?
Good. I got COVID.
And you're a trooper. The drummer is here.
He's not feeling that well. My son and I, we like Battleship. And he usually wins. But I check it out to make sure he's really winning.
Well, now it's electronic, so you can't fudge it, you know.
We have the old school one. We don't have the electronic one.
Oh, that's cool.
Does the electronic one have noises? Does it have like...
Yeah. And then when you punch it in, I didn't find it fun at all. Battleship was my favorite. But
you don't like the electric one?
Yeah, I'm not into the newfangled stuff. I can't even figure out my Mac to record. So much to the chagrin of you and Perry, I can't record. So anyway, starting off the show tonight, we've kind of touched base on an album from REM that kind of flew under the radar for me, at least. New Adventures in Hi-Fi. And Lou, you had a kind of a looking back on it you want to do tonight.
Yeah, I did a REM retrospective recently, and that was an album that when it first came out, it was in 96, September of 96. That's the first record to not do as well as the previous record in REM's history. So that's considered the beginning of their so-called, it's mentioned as an artistic decline at times, but that depends, you know. So it was recorded at like sound checks and some gigs. So it's a kind of a live album, and I believe there's four or five studio cuts that they put on there that they actually went to a studio. I think there's 4 tracks, and there's outtakes and B-sides as well. It's their 10th studio album, the 5th album for Warner Brothers. That was, you know, when they signed to Warner, that was their major label debut with Green. And for me, that period after Document, I was pick and choosy with REM. Although I love Monster, but I've come to really like this record. I think it's adventurous, it's experimental at times, and it's pretty damn heavy if you really listen to it. And I just think it's got a cult following now. I just think it's one of those records. Like I said, a lot of people. It didn't sound great when it first came out. I thought when I first got it, I had on probably cassette, probably. I had on CD, and no, I probably had on cassette, I think. But it sounded like empty. It sounded distant. I guess that's because of the fact it was recorded at sound checks and things like that. But now when I listen back to it, there's some great music on. There's some great playing and some great songs. And it's got some. Actually, they had like 5 singles from this record, or at least 4 singles. Ebo the Letter with Patti Smith, Bittersweet Me, Electrolyte, which is one of my favorite REM songs. It's 2 of these singles are some of my favorite REM songs. Electrolyte, kind of an acoustic number with some great violin on it, and How the West Was Won and Where It Got Us. That's the opening track on the record. It's got that spaghetti western sound. It's got the big reverby guitar. Yeah. So yeah. So actually, I was listening to it today, and I think it's like I said, it's a record a lot of fans went, okay, a couple songs here and there, but the songwriting is strong, and the songs are very strong actually. A couple things. Every album, there's 14 songs on the release, and every album's got a couple songs you can do out or do better than others, or that you like better. But in retrospect, I think it's one of their best. Apparently, it's Michael Stipe's favorite record that they've done. The band thinks it's their creative and artistic peak. Tom York of Radiohead says it's one of his favorite albums. So yeah. What do you guys think of it?
I'll tell you what. The reason it didn't hit me is I was going through this period. This was when I kind of checked out of music. It was the 90s, and I was driving every day to Bridgeport for my work. I thought CDs had to have a nice crystal clear sound, and so I didn't like it for that reason, because the live cuts don't have many highs. And I forget, I think it was New Musical Express said that in their review of it, because I think everybody back then was expecting a nice digital sound. And looking back, I listened to it now, and I'm like, no, this was actually the CD doing its job of giving us an authentic sound of what they wanted. Yeah. And I get why Michael Stipe probably likes it, because it was a different way of doing an album. They might have been a little bit in burnout mode. Let's record songs on an 8-track at our show rehearsals, at sound checks. So, but yeah, I wasn't into Ebo the Letter when it first came out. I remember it came on and I listened, and I just, you go in and out with things, But yeah, it definitely, I got it back into it. Well, I didn't really listen to it, but my son bought it 2 years ago. He got me the vinyl reissue of it, and I started playing it, and I just realized it's got quirky songs on it. Leave, my favorite. Yeah. So, it's got Barry, by the way, just to tell you, you're on mute if you're on your end. That's why. But it's definitely worth a reappraisal. It's stood the test of time.
And Monster was considered their heavy record. There's parts of this record are a lot heavier. Monster was recorded in the studio. It's heavy, but it's a pop heavy. Yeah. Some of the tunes in this are actually a little more crunchy, a little more like I said, just heavy. There's additional supplemental musicians because they were playing live as well.
Well, Scott Litt was their guy at this point,
Scott
right?
Litt, he produced this one too.
A couple of records with him, correct?
Yeah, I think this might be it's the last record that Bill Berry was on. He left the band in '97. I think it's the last record they did with Scott Litt. I think Up was the next record.
Which is a great album.
What's that?
I loved Up. That's a great album.
We can talk about that later.
I had to learn how to like this record. It was one of those where I was just losing track with REM.
Yeah,
this is about that time.
Yeah,
and I had to learn to like it. So, but I did like Ebo the Letter. I really like, and a couple of those songs in there. But still, it's not one of my faves. Not even close.
Yeah,
but
I don't.
Depending on
my
frame of mind when I'm listening to it.
Good point.
Next week I could put it on and be in a different frame of mind.
Sure.
And I'm like, this is fantastic. This record is fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know if it's on my list of favorites, but I'm just kind of glad that I didn't get it the first time around.
Yeah,
but that I do appreciate it for what they were trying to do. It's a different side to the band in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
and it also shows that when they want to write a beautiful REM type song like Electrolyte, they can certainly do it, and it never sounds old.
It's an artistic record, without a doubt.
Oh yeah, and it's got it does have one of my favorite REM song titles of all time, and it's Binky the Doormat.
Binky the Doormat
from Shakes the Clown. Binky the Doormat. So that's why I've always liked Stipe because of his references. So when I got the CD on the cassette, I said, "That's funny." He's seen Shakes the Clown as well. The great Shakes the Clown.
So when I got the vinyl, I didn't know the whole backstory of how it was recorded. I just assumed it was all recorded in the studio. So I'm sitting there now getting a vinyl, it's so much easier for someone with 50-year-old eyes to read, So I'm sitting there looking at it, I'm like, recorded at Soundcheck here, recorded at Sound. Wow. All right. Now it's coming together. All right. If they did this
they
all
must have been on a big tour though. Correct.
It was the
Monster Tour.
Monster Tour. Yeah. And their intention was they got an 8-track. Some other band had done this, and they wanted to do, I forget what band it was, that did an album in a similar fashion, recording at Soundcheck. So they decided to give it a whirl.
It was Radiohead.
Okay. Yeah.
I think they took that inspiration from one of their records and decided to do that. I mean, I think bands do record their sound checks and stuff like that because they're testing out new material. Yeah, REM's idea to release it like that. maybe it was a holding pattern thing too, but
And I'm
considering
sure they
that
have the best equipment you can get for
It was an
yeah.
8-track.
Yeah.
It was just an 8-track, though. That's the cool thing about it. They didn't want to go ultra with a 24-track.
So you're
Just an
saying
8-track
it was just an 8-channel board? I mean, I'm sure the board has more than 8 channels.
Oh, I'm
on
sure
it,
there's
but,
several boards, but I think what they went from the board into the whatever tape machine they most likely used was an 8-track.
Cool.
I'll tell you in a
right
second,
there at
but
the
yeah.
venue. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Robert Christgau, of all people, called it folk rock jangle, which to me sounds kind of that's like an early REM cliche at this point. I didn't see any other review that he gave to it, if he did at all. But I mean, I'm not getting a whole lot of jangle on this record comparatively. There's ARP synthesizer, and it's just there are different instruments. I think Bill Berry plays the Ennio whistle on How the West Was Won. That's one of the spaghetti western instruments. It was so it was done live. I don't know the venues that it was recorded at. Does it list them? Whatever coliseums they were at?
Yeah, I can give that run to you now.
Sir
But yes,
Stadium?
it was. So they were recording all their concerts on an 8-track analog machine, and they just recorded their sound checks. The way it broke down, Ebo, let's see. I'll tell you in a second. So like Ebo the Letter was, well, that's at Bad Animals. That was so Undertow was at the Fleet Center in Boston.
Okay.
Leave was at the Omni Coliseum in Atlanta. One was recorded in their dressing room before the show. And of course, since this was done on the road, the 2 side musicians were featured on this album because of that.
Right.
They had and the other Nathan December.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Scott McCoy's from what ensemble?
He's in he's the -5 guy.
He's the -5 guy. Okay.
Yeah. And I think he was in the Posies, maybe, or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Like a Seattle band or something from way back when.
It was mastered by Bob Ludwig. So it's like REM. They were still a big band at that point. So when that record came out, when they were in the process of doing it, they had Warner Brothers behind them. So this was what, 96? What year did Automatic for the People come out? Was that 92?
I have no idea.
Yeah. It was. Automatic for the People came out in 92. I think Monster came out in 94. So this was the record after that.
96. This album came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting though. It's all their equipment on this world tour. So it's it's their board, it's their tape, it's their machine, it's everything that gets carted along with them everywhere they go.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think they enjoyed recording it too. I said it was fun for them. And the Monster tour was fraught with near tragedies because everyone except Peter Buck got sick. Bill Berry had an aneurysm on stage in Switzerland. So this
what
was
happened to Michael Stipe and the other guys? What happened to them?
Stipe had a hernia, I think.
Oh.
And Mike Mills had some kind of intestinal blockage. Probably from flying too many airplanes, too much pressurized cabins.
Too much pressurization.
Yeah. But I think it's only sold about 7 million records in total. So it wasn't a smash record. I don't know what REM's sales are, at their top. I think Automatic for the People was their peak sales record, I think.
Well,
and that's my favorite album of theirs.
Yeah,
guys
I listened to it
that now.
I listened to it the other day. I like it better. It was not a favorite of mine. I wanted to hear Monster by the time they did Automatic for the People, but there's some beautiful songs. There's some great songwriting on that.
And they hung on for 15 more years after that because it's
just
I like the fact that they don't give a shit. This is where we're at. This is what we're going to do. If it doesn't sell like the other one, so what? It's still a piece of work. It's an art.
Right.
Yeah.
It's always a disappointment too. They have, they're on Warner Brothers. So, if the thing, that was considered their, the beginning of their decline in America anyway.
But they delivered their records to Warner Brothers. So, they honored their contract.
Yep. I think they were a victim of they got so big that it had to come down. Like they were the huge. So at some point, you're not the thing anymore because there was a lot of Fairweather fans when they did Losing My Religion. That loved them for those couple albums and then moved on.
Right.
So
and also musical things. What was going on in America in '96 was we've done these retrospectives on Milk Crates and Turntables where it's like a lot of the hip hop and a lot of the R&B was starting to dominate the charts at that point.
Yeah.
And was grunge on the way
out.
Grunge
period.
It was a grunge period.
There.
Yeah, but RM they were cool with the grunge people.
Grunge was a fad.
But
it's
it's a good point because
It was a
if you look
sound.
at every band in the grunge, we had to say it with because it was kind of coined by the record industry.
Mm-hmm.
Soundgarden do not sound like Nirvana, who don't sound like Pearl Jam. They all sound different. In fact, the only band I think that really sounded grungy was probably Soundgarden. That to me, they had a Sabbath sound. That to me is what grunge is. But none of these bands, like if they all sounded the same, but yeah, what killed grunge too is they manufactured bands.
Well, think about where punk came from, right? Punk was, whatever you want to call it. Then it became about fashion.
Yeah.
Same thing with grunge. Grunge started becoming about fashion.
It was about flannel shirts. It was about the return of the flannel shirt. You were dressing down from the hairband years.
I mean, when it was
tougher music. I mean,
when they sell grunge clothes, I mean, it's a fact.
I remember walking into Macy's and seeing a flannel shirt for like $60, and I'm like, really? I used to buy them in Kmart for like freaking $8, and the boots, and all that. One movie was made though about the grunge movement that I really liked. It was Singles. Remember that movie? That was a good soundtrack. Yeah. But and that was when it was commercial. They made a movie about it. So
we're big in Belgium. Yeah, and they even had some grunge musicians in the movie. Eddie Vedder and whoever else.
Pearl Jam were in it as Matt Dillon's band, Citizen Dick, and Eddie was
that was Pearl Jam. I think.
We're big in Belgium.
Okay. Yeah. We're number one in Belgium.
That was a great line because how many bands I met during especially the metal years, right? Oh, we have an album out in Argentina. It hit it's up there. It's up there. We get letters. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. And every LA metal band that hadn't made it, we rehearsed in an abandoned warehouse.
Right.
Acoustically, there's no electricity in it. No, of course, you squatted in an abandoned warehouse. That just became the story, the cliched story.
Nickelback were able to make a video in a warehouse without electricity. I mean, they're amazing.
There's Nickelback and there's other mortals.
So what's the consensus on New Adventures in Hi-Fi?
I call it really good record. I mean, really good. I mean, I might think it's great next year. I listened to it again today, but. That's a record you really got. I mean, REM records are pleasing on the ear in a lot of ways. Automatic for the People has some beautiful songs on it. Even in Monster 2 is, that was their grunge record, I guess.
Yeah.
But the songs are extremely tuneful. But this stuff is more dense. It's just, like I said, it's just it's deeper. It's a little heavier. But at that point.
Well, the thing is, with me, is on this record, New Adventures in Hi-Fi, I didn't really have any go-to songs on it. You know what I mean? On all REM records, I have go-to songs.
Okay.
And they're like, this is going to get me into the record. And this one, they lacked those kind of go-to songs for me.
Okay. For me, it's got
like
two.
I said, next time I listen to it, it's going to be their best album ever.
Right. If you keep that screen up there, the first track and the last track are extreme go-to songs for me.
Low Desert.
No, How the West Was Won and Where It Got Us, and Electrolyte.
For me, it's Leave. I think Leave is
that's a great song.
Excellent song.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, Perry. There was no song, and that's why I let it go for years. Like there was no song that popped out. And the first single, I thought Ebo was a horrible single to release, but
I do too.
Whatever.
It's one of the best songs on the record, actually.
I like it. I did not like it then. I didn't like Drive either.
See, I love Drive. That got me into Automatic for the People.
It did, yeah.
Yeah.
To me, I was just like, I don't know, but
yeah, and
that's the great thing about a great band.
Yeah, today I listened in the car, and
it's evolving.
A couple of these songs did come out to me. Bittersweet Me just pumped out, stood out to me as a great song. So yeah, like I said, we all may next year say it's a great album,
best album ever. Yep,
best album ever.
I don't think that'll happen. But so, Mark, you got the vinyl version.
Yeah.
Is it a double album on vinyl?
So
it is.
It was never originally issued on vinyl. So now with the vinyl thing going, they're reissuing a lot of albums that never did come out in vinyl. But the one good thing, they're putting them on very heavyweight vinyl. Not like in the 80s when records got cheap, they were like frisbees,
Right.
So by putting like 3 songs on each side, you can make the volume higher, and sounds better. So yeah, and it really I was disappointed when I first played it because this first song is in the studio. It has a nice sound. And then the sound check songs, I'm like, oh, it sounds so grungy. That's what I said, grungy, But then when you assess it and you go, I'm listening to an 8-track recorded at a sound check. Yeah, they don't have 10 microphones by the drums capturing the cymbals. You know, they're not doing that. So then you get, that frame of mind.
I'm curious about that. I mean, I would think it's a full setup.
Yeah, absolutely. They run us through the board, the big board.
Yeah.
Then it gets relayed to a smaller.
No. What I was reading up on it, they just had mics on stage for those. They were recording right. It wasn't coming off the soundboard.
Oh, that's right. These are sound checks. These aren't the shows, right? Yeah.
So they weren't coming
It's
out.
not a live album.
Right. So I get, again, and then I think I told you, Perry, a while back, I used to, on the early shows I was on, I used to rail against Who's Next. Oh, there's no highs. I've reassessed my opinion of that. It doesn't need to have tons of highs to be good. It doesn't. So, and Peter Buck's guitar sounds great, crunchy on some of those songs.
Yeah. One of their outtakes is in a movie. It's called Revolution. It's on the Batman and Robin soundtrack.
There was an outtake from New Adventures.
I think there's a couple, like one of the B-sides, I forgot, the Tricycle is not on the song listing that we've seen here. So, but I guess maybe some of the B-sides were different. Were just additions.
Yeah.
So folks, New Adventures in Hi-Fi. It's a record worth checking out.
Absolutely. And in the age of Spotify, you can check it out before you buy it if you have Spotify.
Yeah.
But
it looks like REM, New Adventures in Hi-Fi.
Yeah.
Not Wi-Fi.
The fact that they're using the word hi-fi is kind of funny.
There looks like a desert shot.
Yeah.
In the cover.
Black and white.
I used to think it was a play on the sound, but then I realized no, it's just the way, I think it refers to the way they recorded it. New Adventures,
Yeah.
Anyway, what do you give? I'm just going to 6 out of 10 right now. I'm giving it.
Okay. I think that's about accurate. Yeah.
It's a domino.
Veers into a 7, drops down to 6, maybe that kind of thing for me. But yeah, it's definitely, it's not a top 5 REM album for me by any stretch. But
now Perry gave me a copy of the next album, Up, and I fell in love with that album on first listen. Loved
What's the next album?
Did you?
Up? Is it called Up?
Up, yeah.
That's all the way to Reno.
The first. No, that's on Reveal.
Oh, Reveal. I'm thinking of. Okay.
Yeah. Reveal was the record after Up. Reveal was.
Okay.
Perry, you gave me that copy too, and at first listen, I'm like, this is a great record. It's a great record, and I was not a big fan of Up. But REM is a trio.
They actually had drum machines on it, which was kind of different,
Yeah. Well, that was the thing, they were, Bill Berry's departure was big for them. That was a big loss.
Yeah. But they got a great drummer. Who died? Who was the replacement that toured with him?
Bill Riflin.
And I saw him.
Actually, no, it was Joey Waronker played on. He played on Reveal. Maybe something, but Bill Riflin was their longtime drummer after that. He's on the last records.
He sadly passed away a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he did. Great drummer, too.
Lucky to see him with that triple drummer thread of King Crimson.
Oh, yeah.
He was the center drummer. It was great.
That's right.
To see him. So, all right. Well, moving on. Perry, I understand you might have some trivia to make me look.
Oh, yeah. I've got trivia right here in front of me.
Make me look so smart.
COVID sucks, right, Mark?
It sucks.
I just noticed that on you.
We're just glad that you're able to talk and you're not laying in bed and, thank God you got a...
Three years ago, I would have been scared. I would have gotten the heaping portion, but I don't envy anyone who did, Perry.
So, in 1982...
Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
At the Grammy Awards. Back in the 80s, I guess this is when MTV really kicked into gear, they actually had a category at the Grammys for Music Video of the Year. Now, in the Grammys in 1982, Quincy Jones won 5 awards. The song of the year was Betty Davis' Eyes.
Was it really?
The album of the year was Double Fantasy by John and Yoko.
Okay.
And so the question is, who won? Who was awarded the first ever Grammy for Music Video of the Year in 1982? It was a brand new category. I don't know if they still have it now. They may have left it. But in 1982 at the Grammys, they had a category, Music Video of the Year. Who was awarded that video, that award?
In 82?
in 1982.
So Thriller came out in 83, right? I think.
Well, I'm just going to ask right off. Was it Michael Jackson? Can you say yes or no to that?
No.
Okay.
It was not.
This is
'Cause
somebody
I
who
think-
was artistic and really in on the video thing in the early days. Really had a vision and knew what it was going to become.
Peter Gabriel? No, that's too early for that kind of recognition for him.
Michael
Male or female?
Nesmith, Elephant Parts.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah.
Never guessed that.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
There was a thing. It was like a hour-long video or something. It was just, goofing around with video, and like he knew what it was going to become.
Yeah. Wow.
And when he didn't like an editing, he just put white out on it. Just kind of...
Okay.
Now, that would never happen again after that period, because once MTV became big, it's something quirky like that. There wouldn't be another Dog Police.
Well, they came up with their own award show, but this was actually a Grammy.
Grammy, yeah.
That's a strange. I'm sure they bagged that category. They don't even have it anymore. You know, who knows? Who watches the Grammys? Anyway, who played saxophone on the Beatles song, You Know My Name, Look Up the Number? It was a B-side of Let It Be or something like that.
One of my favorite songs.
Welcome
to Schlagers.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Who played saxophone on the Beatles song, You Know My Name, Look Up the Number?
David Bowie.
John Lennon.
Brian Jones.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know my name.
Here's another one. What was the first album printed with lyrics on it?
Sgt. Pepper.
Tapestry, Carole King.
Lou's got it. Sgt. Pepper.
Sausage and
First
Pepper.
out lyrics on the first time ever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sausage and Peppers.
We're sausage and pepper.
Okay, got another one.
Cool.
This one's a little long-winded. There's a songwriter. Can you name the songwriter who is also an author and a playwright? He has written songs that have been recorded by Blake Shelton, Dolly Parton, Barbra Streisand, Judy Collins, Britney Spears, Barry Manilow, just to name a few.
Wow.
He's a songwriter,
and
very famous songwriter. He once wrote a song about an alcoholic beverage, and he also wrote a song about cannibalism.
Tom Waits.
I'm going with Tom Waits, too.
Lou, you know this. You just can't think of it. About Rupert Holmes.
Cannibalism.
Pina Colada song.
That's not about
And he wrote that
cannibalism.
song, Tim, about cannibalism. Somebody fell down a mine in a cave, and they eating one of the guys.
He was a playwright?
And yeah, he wrote a play, and he's also an author. Yeah.
Well,
His real name is David Goldstein, Rupert Holmes.
Okay. Well, he also does. He does Broadway or musicals. Well, you said Tim. He had a song called Him also.
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
Not about him. Yeah.
Okay.
What's he gonna do about him?
I have two questions about Paul McCartney. What was Paul McCartney's biggest radio hit? Biggest radio hit. I'm not talking sales. We're talking his biggest radio hit.
Well, what's the difference between the biggest radio hit and sales?
Playing right.
Well, the radio doesn't care how much it sells. The radio says people love it. We're going to keep playing it and playing it.
Yeah, they could. I'm going to say Let Him In.
I'm going to say Mull of Kintyre.
Okay. It was 1976. You're both wrong, but we'll give you another guess. Think about Paul McCartney in 1976. His biggest radio hit. It was #1 for 5 weeks straight.
Silly Love Songs.
Probably right. I mean, I can't think of it. It has to be from that
Mark,
album.
you're on, man. It's Silly Love Songs. Was #1 for 5 weeks in 1976.
Because that and Let Him In was always on the radio when I was like 6 years old. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew Silly Love Songs was big. I didn't think it was that.
Yeah. John Lennon used to make fun of him for that. But you know what? He kind of became a little cheesy too. You know. All right. This is going to be Can you name? All right, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 number one McCartney's hit. Paul McCartney hits.
I love you.
Now, can you name at least 3 of them? And no duets. None of the Stevie Wonder stuff. None of this Michael Jackson stuff. Say. None of that. These are just Paul McCartney or Paul McCartney and Wings. Number one songs. Can you name 3 out of the 6?
Not counting the Silly Love Song. Was that a number one?
That was number 1. Yeah, that's one of them.
Okay.
Yep.
How about Coming Up?
Yeah.
I love that song.
No.
Nope. Bitch.
Living Love Songs. Got that checked off.
Was it Frozen Jap?
No. No.
Not Live and Let Die?
Nope.
Oh, Uncle Halsey. I'm Uncle Albert.
That's number 2. Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey. Yep.
One of my favorite
Number
songs.
1? Wow.
Yep.
That was a number 1.
Yeah, maybe like 1971. Yeah.
And My Love.
Oh, yeah.
Lou, you just grabbed another one. You got all right.
Now, the guitar player on My Love, I think it's Henry McCullough.
Well, Paul played it on the studio record. Paul,
no.
Jimmy McCullough only played it live.
No, not Jimmy on My Love. It's another McCullough. There was a Henry McCullough.
He's a drummer, wasn't he?
No, Henry McCullough was another guitar player.
Right, but on the record,
not on My Love. It's not on the record.
Paul McCartney's first solo record. He made it at home.
My Love isn't on that. That's on like Red Rose Speedway.
Okay,
but it was one of those guitar solos where Paul didn't dictate the guitar player to play exactly what Paul wanted. The guy told Paul,
okay,
let me do this. Just let me do this, you egomaniac. And okay,
hey,
guys, don't go Ringo on me.
What's that?
All right, so we got 3 of them. There's 1, 2, 3 more. Number 1 hits by Paul McCartney or Paul McCartney and Wings.
Yeah. Band on the Run.
Bingo. There's another one.
That's a great record.
2 more. Number 1 hits.
Ooh.
One of them was mid-1970s. The other one might have been around 1979 or 80.
Bluebird?
1980.
I'm a bluebird. I'm a
Listen
bluebird.
to what the man said.
Hey, you are right on, man. You are right on. There's 1 left.
Even with COVID.
Number 1 song by Paul McCartney or
and
Paul
you're thinking
McCartney
maybe
Wings
79
left.
or 80? With a little luck.
Holy shit. How the fuck did you get that, dude?
In my sickness, I'm channeling.
With a little luck. That's
a great song.
Rocketing skyward.
So many keyboards. I love Paul McCartney. I mean, it's just stupid to say that. But, you think about all the people that a lot of us have mentioned, Perry, Mark, you, me, and Scott McLean. We all think that John Lennon's solo work was probably the spottiest. Him and George had this, but George has 2 masterpieces. All Things Must Pass and Cloud 9, I think, is a George masterpiece. And
I have one more question.
Amazing comeback.
Oh, by the way, yes. Henry McCullough was the lead guitarist on My Love.
On My Love.
Yeah, and Denny Sewell.
Denny Sewell's a drummer.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I'm thinking about Paul McCartney's first record? Maybe I'm amazed. He played the lead guitar on that, and on Wings Over America, it was Jimmy McCullough.
Yeah.
By the way, if I never hear that song again, I'll be happy. It's just to me, it's just so plain.
Well, actually, that's it. I have no more trivia.
Okay,
I got some trivia about Wings, though. If you got the drummer Joe English, he lives in North Carolina. He joined a religious cult.
Ooh,
that was investigated. Oh my God, these allegations of child abuse, abusing women, mind control of women. He's not too far from here. Because I read about Wings and all the other people. Jimmy McCullough died young. Henry McCullough, I don't know whatever happened to him, or Denny Sewell. But then I looked up Joe English because he was like a jazz drummer, but he thought the McCartney gig was kind of musically beneath him. Because I was just laying down a backbeat. But some of the drumming is actually pretty creative. Joe English on Wings at the Speed of Sound. Paul was trying to dispel the myths that he was the taskmaster and he was in control. So everyone got a lead vocal. So Joe English sang a song called Must Do Something About It. That's a really great song. It's a great vocal. And Paul heard him singing it during an off moment during recording. He goes, "You sing it, but only one. Don't sing it better than me."
Well, all right.
Little
Well,
Red.
I want to take this opportunity to say R.I.P. to about Denny Lane. We lost him this week.
Yeah.
Very suddenly. Wasn't expected.
Speaking of
He
wings,
was-
And
Yeah.
also,
He looked good with that double neck, didn't he? On the Wings Over America.
Yeah.
It looked cool,
oh, by the way, cheers to Shane McGowan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's crossed over to the other side.
Yep.
Yep. So
Yeah. Denny Lane, we know was a original member of the Moody Blues.
I didn't know that until I read his obituary. I didn't know.
Well,
that.
the song "Go Now." That was kind of a hit,
He didn't write that though. That was an old cover from the 50s.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
People
But
think he
it's
wrote
a,
that
it's,
song.
It's a great
He didn't.
song.
No.
It's a great
Yeah.
vocal. That's before they got poetic as the Moody Blues.
Yeah. Yep.
We've asked this before. They're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Who? The Wings?
The Moody Blues.
Moody Blues?
I don't know if they are.
You know what? Not sure.
Perry,
Not sure.
Perry's wearing a Waffle House T-shirt. That's
I
Days
thought it
of
was
Future
Raffle
Past.
House. I was ready to buy a ticket. I thought it was Raffle House. So.
I love Waffle House.
There's none up here.
No, it's a Southern thing. My first taste of Southern hospitality was Perry, Tom Griffin, and myself doing a road trip to Florida, and we stopped at a Waffle House. And I got my first taste of that Southern hospitality. Like, wow, you're really nice.
And
You know what my
grits.
first taste of Southern
and-
hospitality was, Lou?
Right.
In Bernardsville, that little breakfast place he took me to. I think it was
Oh, yeah.
eggs with mayonnaise or eggs with butter or whatever on
or
white
both.
bread.
Yeah.
It was
that was
actually
the
good, though.
that was the D&D. I used to go there for pancakes. It was a cool little. I love those little places. And then it was Sheena's down the road, which was like more of a lunch place. But the Sheena burger was pretty damn good.
Like we drove up, we get out of the car, and everyone looks at me with my long hair, and the whole place just quieted down. And I'm like,
It's definitely a good old boy.
can we
It's a
take
good
this
old
to
boy,
go?
old school. Screw that.
could have been worse.
You know,
I could have
it-
had an English accent.
Well, it's funny, these myths about parts of the rural South. The gas station before that was owned by an Indian family. No one ever said anything.
Yeah.
But there have been places, like you said, you're coming. They know you're not from around there. When I lived up in Warwick before I was recording the Edenville CD, I had my head shaved down. So I was going to eat. I was staying at the drummer's house. I was separated from my wife, so I was looking for a place to live. So I was going to this breakfast place every morning, and right in front of all these people, the waitress comes up. She goes, "Are you a white supremacist?" I'm like, "Do I say yes? Because did I get killed here? Because I'm not."
Because you had a crew cut.
It was buzzed down. It wasn't even a crew cut, but I said, "I'm not." She goes, "Well, there's an apartment." She goes, "You're looking for a place to live." It's just kind of a weird thing where you're definitely the fish out of water.
Warwick looks like northern New Jersey now. Everybody moved up there because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
I
I know friends up there.
So anyway, Lou, when you were talking about REM, you reminded me of, I told you guys like about 6 months ago on a show that I was going into an REM deep dive, and because I'm really not up on the earliest stuff. So I know that's how you guys got into REM.
Sure. Yeah.
And you made this comment that I always remembered. All the albums are good except for Around the Sun. Yeah. And
Up. I'm not a fan of Up.
Yeah, well, when I hear any fan of a band talk about an album not being good, I'm instantly curious to hear it. I want to hear what's now. When I used to go to Town and Country Music in Westwood, I would get the $3.99 albums, thinking, "Why is it $3.99?" I always had this fascination with, why is this considered not that good?
Right.
And you do find some gems when you do that. But I compiled a list of most hated albums or worst albums according to fans, not critics. Critics, forget them. When critics hate an album, I usually like it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so I did a little list here, and these are albums that I know, and I'm going to say the album, and then this is all my opinion. I'm going to say, was it warranted to be hated by the fans? And what do I think of it? I'm going to say. So I'm going to start off with the REM Around the Sun, because the last 2 weeks I've been playing a lot of REM, and I saved this, and I said, I got to listen to this. All right. I listened to it. I have to admit, I couldn't make it all the way through. Doesn't mean I didn't like it, but it was, a little low key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When I finished it and I played it a couple times, and then I read all the fans' reactions, was it warranted? I got to say, yeah, because as Michael Stipe himself said, it had good songs. It just never got completed. To me, it sounds like REM light. There's no angst in the lyric, in the singing. it's like, yes, they're going through the motions, but there is some good songs in there, some really good songs.
What year did it come out?
2004.
2000. Oh wow, okay. So that's what was the record before that? Was it Reveal?
You know, I'm not sure.
So you're saying even when they're disinterested in making a record, they still made a record, though, right? It sounded uninspired.
It's a very smooth album. There's no, even like, all right, so they went through that whole acoustic thing, right, where Peter Buck wasn't playing electric, but they still had fire. There was still very, it was very intense, their stuff. Michael Stipe, he brings angst into a lot of stuff, and it was very like, that's what I got from it. Even the production is very soft, it's almost like they're looking at an album that would appeal to people that don't want to hear anything too hard or too, but I liked it. I liked it.
I think it's a band that's missing the inspiration of a member that left, that was an really important member. That band. Bill Berry, besides just being a great drummer and part of that, he wrote a shit ton of really great songs with them,
But I didn't know that. Was this where they were going into their sort of drum machine phase? And
after New Adventures in Hi-Fi, Bill Berry quit. So the next album up was the 3-piece, and they didn't want to just be a rock band. Let's get a drummer. I think they decided to say, hey, who are the three of us, and what can we do?
Let's go in this direction.
Right. Now, Bill Berry, in all graciousness, and maybe he really does believe this or said that, he goes, it took me leaving the band for them to make their best record. It's probably like a morale booster, So, Reveal. Oh, so actually, wait. So Around the Sun
Reveal came out before it, and then they didn't do another album. And then they didn't do another album until Accelerate, which is a superb album.
It really is. That's with Bill Riflin on drum.
Okay, yeah.
So
Perry knows. I couldn't stop talking
Mark,
about
so
that album.
You brought up this record that you didn't like, though, right?
No. I was saying albums that I hear people don't like that's their worst album ever, right?
Right.
And I go on like Amazon and I read some of the reviews, the worst REM album, it sucks. Okay. And you get people that like. Right. So I listen to these albums and I give my opinion, like what I think. But I also think that they were warranted criticism from their fans because they really didn't put out their best album. They kind of limped through it, tiptoed through it. It wasn't like, let's face it, someone plunks down money for that album. They weren't getting a fully vested REM album. They could have done much better.
I think it was a period too for Stipe where there's a song Leaving New York on it. He was like 2 or 3 blocks away from 9/11, the Twin Towers, when they got hit. And I do think it was an impact, It's like, that's impacted us all, but I really do think that was something, also inspiration. Reveal was a very inspired record, I think. It was a return to form for REM. Yeah. And so that was, that was a bump. But like you said, 4 years later, they do the next album, Reveal, which to me was a great record.
Yeah. Probably wasn't a good time for them to do an album, but they got to get in the city. Who knows? The record label says we need an album,
Well, sure. So, I mean, I don't know what their contractual obligation to Warner Brothers was. 5 albums, 10 albums. You sign on that dotted line, you got to do what you got to do.
And some of these albums. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
A band with that integrity, they were known for having integrity in what they did. So I think they probably tried to make the best record they could.
Yeah. And some of a lot of these albums, I'm going to say, some of them were caused by like record labels saying we need an album. Next up, an album called Time by Fleetwood Mac came out in 1995. Universally panned. Mick Fleetwood in his autobiography said, I never should have done this. What happened was Stevie Nicks was out. Lindsey Buckingham was out. So he recruited Dave Mason and Becca Bramlett, daughter of Delaney Bramlett. I listened to it and I understand it was justified why everyone hated it, because why the hell did Fleetwood Mac why did Mick Fleetwood make a Fleetwood Mac album without those two? It should have been Mac Mason or something, but it's got good songs on it. I like it, but I understand why it was their poorest selling album. It didn't even chart. You couldn't see it. It hit 100. It didn't chart at all.
A bad idea.
That was 95.
Yeah, that was 95. Yeah. And like I said, Dave Mason has 2 good songs on there. He always comes up with a good song.
Who is he? Yeah. Well, we know who he is, but he's one of those guys too. I mean, he's kind of on the fringes of things. He was always popular. You heard
had a big radio.
What was his big hit? There ain't no good guy.
Yeah.
But he also
there ain't
wrote.
no good guys. It's only
yeah.
you and me, and we just disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he also wrote Only
Oh.
You Know and I Know. Only You Know and I
Yeah.
Know. That's
He's
a
in
David
That
Mason.
was a Delaney and Bonnie hit, right?
He was in Traffic, yeah.
So there was a good story about that. Dave Mason is notoriously hard to work with. I think he was in Traffic for like 2 months. When he rejoined him, he was only there for 2 months. Evidently, the guy isn't easy to work with. And when Fleetwood Mac were touring, Becca Bramlett, who has a loud mouth, started fighting with Dave Mason because she was mad about him smoking cigars on the tour bus. And he was always telling her about his little escapades with women. And she was like, just shut up. So she called her dad and she's like, saying, I'm yelling at Dave, mate, I'm yelling at you. And her dad said, don't yell at Dave. Just leave it alone. Obviously he knew something, like he has a temper or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But,
What's her name?
Becca Bramlett.
Becca Bramlett.
She's the one that's married to
Butch Derek Trucks, right?
No,
Am I talking out of my
that's
ass?
the guitar player. I can't remember her name.
Susan Tedeschi.
Yeah, that's who he's married
That's
to,
who. Okay.
Yeah. But Becca is the daughter of Delaney.
There's a great Elvis Costello story with them too. Great bar drunk. He got away with that.
You want to tell
that
it?
way. Now I could have played in Traffic at one point. You know why?
Why?
Because my dad always used to say to me, "Look, go play in Traffic."
Dun.
But
Jesus, I don't have this stuff lined up yet.
I'm really trying here, man. There you go.
There you go. Okay,
right.
Moving on.
Yeah, what's another album that you hate?
I got to get
it's not
through
that.
this
It's
list.
not what Mark hates. Mark has a couple haters on
This
there.
is not albums I hate. These are albums that were panned by fans. That fans.
Okay, well, let's not use the word hate
fans.
then. Let's not use the word hate.
But they're
These
hated albums. They really are. They're hated albums.
disliked. They're disliked.
Okay,
They're hated
I
albums.
like that.
All right, here's a hated album.
That's very
Perry.
holistic, Perry.
Listen, Van Halen 3. Not their third album, but their third lineup.
Yeah.
We got Gary Sharon in the band.
Mm-hmm.
They put out an album that, number one, was recorded very sludgy. And poor Gary Sharon, because not all the songs are terrible. There's some good stuff in there, but should have been a Eddie Van Halen solo album. It shouldn't have been a Van Halen album. I understand that he only let Michael Anthony play bass on 2 songs. He plays bass on the rest. So already he was kicking Michael out of the band.
Wow.
Fans hated it. Deserved. Do I like it? It's probably the most disliked album in their catalog, but it's got that song Without You, which was a monster single. That was a really good song.
I think that's the one I couldn't listen to. To me, it was just
the one I
alien.
heard.
It was so alien. It was
like, that's not that bad.
Well, Gary Sharon's an acquired
I should
taste.
listen to
His
that
voice
again.
is a little, he struggles to hit high notes, but it's got some
I
interesting
thought he was one of those
stuff in there.
operatic singers. I thought he was one of those guys.
You've heard their stuff. He kind of hits the notes.
I know that.
but not
I know
really
that hit
high.
song. I know the ballad.
Yeah.
What are the words?
They should have got Sebastian Bach to sing instead of Gary Sharon.
Yeah, right.
Then it'd be even more hated.
Okay, next up, U2, Pop. This album was derided by their fans because it had a lot of techno influence on it, and it had a lot of beats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Was it warranted? Nah, I think the fans should have given them a chance because bands get trapped in what they're doing, and they were just trying to look for something to do. I always love this album. It's a sleeper of their catalog, but the song Mofo is heavy. If you turn it up, it is heavy with the techno. And so it was different. People weren't ready for Bono to be incorporating that stuff, but they
Were there any like noteworthy singles from that album?
What year was that?
Okay,
97. Do you remember the song Discotheque?
Yeah, I'm not a U2 fan, so I didn't mind some of that latter stuff.
Yeah.
I thought, I thought it was like.
Neither did I. Yeah,
I thought it was pretty clever. Some good pop songs, and
I got tired of the anthemic U2.
Yeah,
that's what kind of turned me away from them. Yeah.
Although I listened to the Joshua Tree a couple of months back.
That's
for
the album I like.
Milk Crates
That's
and
the album
Turntables.
I least like. I just can't listen to it.
There, like I said, I told Scott. I said side 1 I was cool with. Side 2 up until I forgot what song, Red Hill Mining Town or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
I said otherwise. I said it's been played out.
That's what it is. It's like Boston,
Yeah. I like the Unforgettable. I like the Unforgettable Fire better.
Yeah, that's a great album. But my favorite's Achtung Baby.
Oh, baby.
Next
Wings,
up,
baby.
Metallica and Lou Reed, Lulu. Yes and yes.
Yeah.
It was definitely warranted for fans to not like it, and No, I should say I did not. I tried. I gave it a chance. I'm like, and I understand Metallica. These guys are stuck. They're considered
How
the
hard
Led
did you
Zeppelin.
try?
Hard. I tried real hard.
Oh,
Barry.
I tried.
Real hard. Metallica are funny. They're called the Led Zeppelin of the generation. They're not Led Zeppelin. They have one sound, and they're trapped in that. They can never do anything different. So I kind of feel like they wanted to try to do something different, you know.
And I think Lars Ulrich lives up to his reputation as not being an amazing drummer. But it's weird. I heard one of their songs recently, and it wasn't one of the hits. But he's not overplaying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've got some Zeitgeist too on random. That you just mentioned Lars. Yeah.
Okay.
Lars.
Okay, moving on. Deep Purple, Come Taste the Band. Richie Blackmore was out. Tommy Bolin was in on guitar. Many Purple fans say because it's not Blackmore on the album that they don't like it. It's got the funky sound. It was a different kind of funky than Stormbringer. And people should be reminded that Steve Morse lasted longer in Deep Purple than Richie Blackmore, and they put out a lot of albums with him, and they were good.
Right.
But warranted by the fans? Yeah, I can understand. David Coverdale took over the band, and he wasn't the original, he wasn't part of the Mark II that was popular. You can justify that fans didn't like it. Do I like it? Yeah, I like it. It's got a unique sound to it. It was their cocaine album. You could just tell they were doing everything when they recorded.
Their fans are entitled to that. I mean, look at the Deep Purple thing, right? After Ian Gillan and David Glover were out, Roger Glover were out. Who comes in? Glenn, what's his name?
Glenn Hughes.
Glenn Hughes and Dave Coverdale.
Yeah.
Now,
two lead singers,
Right. But other people like, no. That's not. But Richie Blackmore was still on fire. I mean, the riff in that song, Burn, is killer.
Burn was a killer album.
Richie Blackmore riff. Yeah.
Killer album. Yeah. Richie was still
and Ian Gillan could have sung that song. So they just drifted, right? Drifted over.
Burn was really good. It was kind of like a 5150 from Van Halen, where you had new blood in the band. Everybody was getting along for that moment. So the vibes were good. They came up with great songs. After that, it kind of went out. There were some funky songs on Burn too, but so Come Taste the Band. Like I said, it's just it's a quirky album in their career. Tommy Bolin died not long after that. And he was good. I have recordings of him from that period playing with Deep Purple. Unfortunately, he was doing so much heroin that his arm was messed up and he couldn't even play some gigs. So they turned up his guitar effects to cover.
That's when you're supposed to shoot into your groin at that point. I think Come Taste the Band is the most Spinal Tap album title I think ever.
And did you ever see the cover? All their faces are in a wine glass.
Oh, okay.
So,
I saw that.
Okay.
You had said to me about I got an email from you about an Emerson, Lake and Palmer album, Love Beach.
That's next, Barry.
That's the one with the pastel colors on the beach.
No, they look like Bee Gees. They have the white suits on, and they all have balls on their crotches, sticking out.
All right, but what about the record, though? What about the songs?
So ELP came out. They didn't want to do an album. Ahmet Ertegun, I think he saw the death of Prague coming, because he forced Yes around this time to do an album when they weren't ready either.
Really?
They did the Tomato album, which just didn't click on all cylinders. But this was, Ahmet wanted a hit. So Keith kind of handed the reins over to Greg Lake, who could write a really good song when he wanted to. He wrote some of their best songs. So you got side one is all short songs, 3 minutes. ELP cannot play pop songs. It just sounds so forced. First of all, Carl Palmer's not a pop type player.
Right.
Keith Emerson's trying to work his moog into it. Fans hated it. I don't like it. Even side two, which is a 4-song suite called Memoirs of an Officer and a Gentleman. It's so contrite and forced. It's just
what year was this? What year did this come out?
78. And it was
1978. They're still doing suites with 4.
If it was inspired, it would have done good, but it wasn't inspired. Also, Greg Lake and Carl Palmer hated being in the Bahamas. That's where they recorded it.
Aww.
They left even when it was being mixed. They got out of there. They were never together again. They actually left while Keith was getting all the tracks together.
Where was it? Like Air Studios?
It's better in the Bahamas.
If you read Keith's autobiography, it was a studio that had a lot of problems. They just got a studio in the Bahamas. It wasn't anything great, Thank you, Ahmet. See, Ahmet, sometimes things didn't work out. Yeah. I just remember the tight crotched pants is disgusting on the
I
cover.
remember we had a good laugh at the cover too when we were looking at shitty album covers one time.
Right.
Oh God! And it was definitely Bee Gees. They were channeling it.
Yeah.
Okay,
yep.
next up, Genesis, 1997, Calling All Stations. Phil Collins had left, so Mike Rutherford and Tony Banks decided to carry on and get Ray Wilson in the band. The album flopped so bad that the tour never made it out of Europe. They canceled the U.S. tour. They never played here.
Jesus.
Can I, excuse me, can I go Jack Calabrese for a minute? Whoa. You're saying there was a Genesis album without
That's
Phil
what I'm telling you.
Collins singing on it?
What I'm telling you.
In the 90s. I never heard of it.
So it had a couple songs on TV. Were the fans warranted? Yes, absolutely. Because even though Phil wasn't the original lead singer, he was the lead singer that everyone knew.
He was in the band from the beginning. So yeah,
also
that's
there was
different.
Genesis fatigue setting in. People were tired of Genesis at that point. So for them to carry on trying to make another Genesis was foolish. Ray Wilson,
It was Phil Collins' ubiquity.
Poor Ray. He is a good singer. The album has some very good songs on it. There's a couple ballads on there that are so good. He's got a very raspy voice, totally different than Phil Collins. Fans warranted hating it? Absolutely. Do I like it? Yes, I like it. I like about 3/4 of it, but they shouldn't have called it Genesis.
Sure.
Should have been called something else. You know.
I wonder how many units it didn't sell.
Oh God, it was hard for me to find on CD because when I was looking to get it, I know they had reissued their albums, but that was like it was just I had to get it used. Yeah. So,
I could see where they would call it Genesis, though. I mean, Peter Gabriel left. There's still Genesis.
Hey,
Phil Collins leaves. There's still two of the guys. Still Mike Rutherford and Tony Banks. Right?
Don't you think
actually,
maybe it was
Phil Collins is not an original member? I mean, he is, but he was not there from the beginning. He's on the second record.
There's another drummer on the first album.
So, Banks and Rutherford were the original members. So I guess they're justified in doing that. But given the iconic status of Phil Collins, it's like replacing Paul McCartney or John Lennon and the Beatles into some people's minds.
And Phil said in his autobiography he didn't feel any ill will about them releasing that album. He felt bad for Ray Wilson.
He was glad it flopped.
Because Ray Wilson, his career was destroyed by it because he is an excellent singer. He's still around. He lives in Poland. Okay, next up, you guys know my opinion on this. Jeff Beck, Flash.
We discussed that.
But for anyone that doesn't know, he went techno. He went Niles Rodgers produced it. Drum machines galore, clinical, jarring guitar, doesn't mix well. He did it okay with Jan Hammer, but not with this. Fans backlash. Understood why. You can't ask Jeff Beck fans to accept that kind of stuff, a dance music album. It didn't bomb though. It didn't bomb. It had People Get Ready, which was actually kind of a hit.
We did recently. We did an archive clip on that. You talking about that? Yeah.
So I can listen to People Get Ready. I honestly can't. I can't listen to the rest of the album. I just can't. It's too. I don't mind drum machines. That's the worst '80s drum machines I've ever heard. Ugh.
Is Infatuation on that?
No, that was a Rod Stewart song. So Rod Stewart did People Get Ready. Then he appeared on Rod Stewart's album. He toured with Stewart in his band briefly. And then middle of the show, Rod would go off and let Jeff Beck play 3 or 4 songs. The tour lasted 2 months. They had a bitter fight. Yeah, those two don't get along.
Jeff Beck cannot go on tour. He'll leave a tour 2 weeks. That's just it's Jeff. Now that's what are you going to do? Yeah.
The last 20 years he was doing his tours because I think he needed money. Like it was like, all right, I got a tour. And he was settling down. He was able to tour. I remember buying tickets to see him in Englewood. And I was like, oh, is he going to make it here? Yeah, and he did the whole tour. So I think it became a business thing. Like
but he was happy. He had a nice house. He had his hot rod cars that he dug. That's just, he was completely content with that. Do a record when he has to, or, every 5 years.
Kills me that we lost him because right up to the end, his solos, his playing changed. He changed on every album, never stopped. Next up, my old favorite heavy metal band, Judas Priest, Turbo, 1986. After being the heavy metal masters with Defenders of the Faith, which I will say in heavy metal, that is a great album, really good album. It's got everything you want in heavy metal. They got into hair metal to a degree. They had guitar synthesizers on it. It's called Turbo. And the single was "I'm Your Turbo Lover."
Ooh.
It didn't hit too good with fans.
Just by that title.
Fans railed against it. Were they justified? Yes. because when you label yourself the metals, everything with Rob Halford, we are the metal gods, and then you go and you do hair metal. That's not metal. Did I like it? A couple of good songs on there. And I think that Judas Priest, like Metallica, you get trapped in that mold of you have to play that kind of music, and they just want to change it up a little bit, but whatever. It actually sold very well because a lot of Fairweather fans like the pop tunes on it, so it did do really good.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the last tour where Rob had semi-long hair before he just shaved his head. Next up, everybody's favorite band, Kiss. Music from the Elder. Do you remember that? 1981.
I remember seeing it. That's all I can say.
I thought that was Gene Simmons' solo record, but I was wrong, huh?
No.
Okay.
Well, those are going to be on my list. Any solo records by Kiss were going to be on, worst albums.
So that was a concept album produced by Bob Ezrin about 2-3 years from doing The Wall, so he was hot shit. Bombed. First of all, it's a concept album. They're trying to be proggy. There's strings in it. Kiss fans, and I'm not knocking, it's just a Kiss fan, like, would a Bob Seger fan want to hear Bob Seger do a proggy album? No, they want rock and roll. So the fans hated it. They were already losing their fans anyway. They were suffering the fallout of Dynasty, Was the fans hated it, justified in hating it? Do I hate it? There's actually a couple okay songs on it, but hearing Kiss try to do intricate music, it just doesn't fly by me, I listened to it once. I probably never listened to it again. But the single "World Without Heroes" by Gene Simmons is actually a pretty good song. It's like an R&B type kind of a ballad.
That's why I thought it was his solo album.
Yeah,
it's like a world without sun, isn't it? Wasn't that the other lyric? World
without
heroes, like a world without sun.
Okay, we got
world without
5
money.
No, 4 more. Dream Theater, which you guys know, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
2016, they put out The Astonishing. Now, it's a rock opera, very proggy. You're thinking, why wouldn't the fans like it? Well, they let James LeBray put a lot of ballads, and I love when James LeBray sings ballads, but the fans, it was a lot to sink your head into. Dream Theater are kind of like Rush. There's a split on the fans. There's a lot of the prog fans, but there's also fans that like them when they were a little bit more metal or more commercial with that one hit they had, and they can't sit through the long stuff. So most fans just hated it. They didn't get it. It did horrible in America. It did great in Europe, Italy, England, France, everywhere there. Here, they toured, but fans just like, I went to the Radio City show. People were calling out in the show in the quiet parts, they were calling out some old songs. Like, come on, guys. I don't think the fans were warranted saying that, because if you're going to like a prog band, accept everything you get with it. You're not listening to the Ramones. You're hearing a complicated band. James LeBray's, to me, it's his peak with the band. I love it. One of my favorite albums of all time, but fans disagreed. I don't think they were right. My opinion. Next up, Rush, Grace Under Pressure, 1984. I was in high school. Man, a little more than half of the fans, Rush fans, and my high school was all Rush fans, hated it. All keyboards. Where's Alex? Because they want the 70s style. They weren't warranted saying that. Come on. This turned out, in retrospect, time has been very good to that album. It's one of their best albums. Very dark. It's got Red Sector A, which was Neil wrote in honor, I think, of something about it's people surviving a concentration camp, knowing that Geddy Lee's mother was a concentration camp survivor. Some heavy lyrics on that album. And so I think the Rush fans, it's tough. Rush fans are split. You got the ones that only like the 70s stuff. You know this, Lou, right?
Yeah.
Then you got the ones that like it all. And I'm partial to the 80s sound myself and on, because it's got the keyboards. In fact, there are more prog in the 80s to my ears, I disagreed with the fans.
I listened to a Farewell to Kings the other day, actually, on Sunday.
Great
album. And it's a rock album. They were a rock band. They were proggy, but a lot of stuff was rock, off odd time signatures and stuff like that. But in the 80s, that was Rush changing directions. That was them evolving.
Yeah, it was recorded at Rockfield Studios in Wales. It was recorded at Rockfield Studios in Wales. Yeah. Okay, Nickelback, every album sucks. We agree with that. And the fans can, if any fan likes it, they can go down.
They would
Chris
disagree.
Gaines, sucks, and it deserved to die a slow death. Painful death.
Yes.
And then the last one, Frampton, I'm in You. Even though it sold a ton of records, a lot of fans hated it. They are justified.
Yeah.
I tried listening to
It's
it.
terrible.
We've talked about that because he made the mistake of not writing songs for himself, writing songs for his fans.
Yeah.
Fatal mistake.
And the
But
record
those weren't
company.
his real fans. Those were his pop fans. The
I mean,
ones that
you-
liked
Yeah.
his hair.
You
You're
write
me.
songs for yourself, not for them. That's the key.
Yep.
Yep.
What was the
Yep.
what was the cover he did on that?
Signed, sealed, delivered.
Signed,
on
Sealed,
yours.
Delivered. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
This was the guy that was coming off the live album where he's a guitar god and he's doing, which is a great song, but it's like he turned pop. And then I listened to the albums after that. Like there was one after that. It's the same thing. Like he never. That's why he lost it. He got.
Well, he was never supposed to be a pop star. That's not what he wanted. It's just that he's never comfortable with that.
Yeah.
He got locked in. Made a lot of money.
I have an album
What do you
Yeah.
have?
that a lot of fans don't like, but I do. Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska. That was a record that the fans initially
Yeah.
were just like, "Oh, we'll wait till the next one."
It's on the top of my list. I love that record.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love it. I liked it when it came out. I said, at first I'm like, okay, this is, I was iffy with the River. I liked half of the River in some ways, but a lot of it I didn't. But when this came out, I said, 5 of those songs. Well, I don't know how many songs are on it, but I said this is a really good record.
I have a record that I mean, it's hard for me to say record. I mean, I have records I'm disappointed in. Like I buy them, like this record here, 10 Stringfellow. Right, I bought the record. Like, I'm disappointed in it. It's not that I hate it. It just doesn't do anything for me. Like, it was a waste of money.
Yeah.
But I do have one record that I despise. I don't want to use the word hate. I despise. I despise Terrapin Station by the Grateful Dead.
I love it.
I like it.
It is an absolute, the worst album it is disgust. First off,
Wow, he hates
with
it.
with the wah-wah
More than
sort of
despises
reggae
it.
crap on the first song, Estimated Property. It's just crap.
Profit.
I love it.
Estimated
That's
profit.
great.
First off, too much Bob Weir. He sings like every song until that hippie girl sings. And then I think Jerry Garcia doesn't sing till the last song.
Terrapin.
The worst version ever I have ever heard of Dancing in the Streets. Worse than Bowie and Jagger. Worst.
No.
It's
You're dead. That's
horrible.
bad.
It is horrible. Shitty drum sound on the record, by the way. Shitty drum sound.
Keith.
Dead drums.
Keith Olsen.
So I'm just saying, like, too much Bob Weir, and I'll put it this way. I wrote down the biggest piece of crap ever perpetrated on a listener's ears. That's Terrapin Station for me.
And that happens to be one of my favorites because what I like about Studio Dead, I'm a minority. I'd rather listen to Studio Dead than Live Dead. That's just me. I think they write some great songs.
Oh, please. That's a disgusting sound.
Hey, Lou, you know what? When Perry comes over, I'll have to have that playing in the background when he walks in the house, just like
Terrapin Station.
What we say is these albums were albums that bands did that they dramatically changed. Sometimes you understood why, you get in a rut and the fans don't always accept it. But, fans, you mentioned Bruce Springsteen. If you go on these forums where people are talking, I said on one forum one time, I said, is anyone just a fan of Bruce? Like, you hate this. I want to hear the E Street sound. I want to hear this. Everyone's
Right, yeah.
And sometimes like I said, if a band puts out a piece of shit uninspired, that's why I kind of said the REM. It was warranted because they didn't put out their best. They didn't put their best effort into it.
Yeah. But I do have something for you, Mark. You ready to read something?
Absolutely. Let me make
Here
my
you
screen
go.
bigger.
This is for you. Uh-oh, I don't see anything. REM.
REM fans, Michael Stipe doesn't have encouraging news when it comes to ever seeing the seminal rock band together again. In a new interview for New York public radio station WNYC, Stipe was clear about his take on the future or lack thereof of REM. We will never reunite. Do you have Peter Buck's quote?
No.
He said that we won't play together for a long time.
Huh. Wow.
I'm thinking they're going to get back together. Michael Stipe changed it. He doesn't stay with one attitude. By the way, put that up again. Can you put it back again?
Oh, yeah. Well, let me read this first. In 2023, It seems more likely that we can expect an Oasis reunion than at any point in the last 15 years. It's easier to imagine what it might look like. Many industry figures are certain that it might possibly happen. Definitely, maybe. That's funny.
Definitely, maybe.
Scott McLean from Milk Crates would say, nope, it's not happening.
Yep.
He says
All right,
Liam
you want to see
is
the REM thing again, you said?
And Liam is successful, but Liam isn't selling stadiums out in the United States. That's my opinion.
Right.
That's why I said
Yeah.
Well, Mark, you mentioned Peter Buck's quote, like you said, but not right now.
I was just looking at that picture. That was like the bad period for Stipe, where that was the MTV period, wasn't it? Like, why'd they show such an old picture? Come on.
Now, maybe he's just being coy, because he could be coy.
You never know. You never know.
Hey, you never know.
You
don't know what's being. When you guys told me, like, I assumed in the 70s, Lennon and McCartney never talked to each other, and you guys said, no. He used to go to the Dakotas and hang out with John. I'm like, whoa, that blew my mind when I heard this. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes.
They used to smoke the reefers. They used to smoke Thai stick. Because I read that in Albert Goldman's trash biography of Lennon, and he was really into the Thai stick.
Jeez.
Well, how about, we were talking about Hall & Oates, right? And I kind of have an update on Hall & Oates, but there was one thing Keith said, too, about, Keith Richards said about, like, he said, they're not going to sell their catalog. Keith Richards says, we won't sell a music catalog. It's a sign of getting old. Keith Richards is not sure the Rolling Stones are ready to sell their music catalog. Instead, it's usually a sign of getting old.
That's funny.
When he's 150, he might sell it.
And when you're going to live forever, why sell it? That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
He's still quotable.
Yeah, he's still
Can you imagine the logistics of that sale being the army of lawyers that would handle that? Shit.
Gentlemen, I'll be right back. I have to go put some leeches on my body. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Can we watch?
No.
So we're doing random kind of right now, aren't we?
We're doing random rounds, man. It's all
right, because I got some more stuff when Lou comes back.
This is like
so
a Grateful Dead
Oasis. We got the Oasis thing. We got REM Michael saying he's never going to reunite.
Do you know why Automatic for the People is my favorite album, though?
No.
There's a personal connection. When my father got me a tour of Bearsville Studios, I went in. They had just been there like his last 6 months recording that album. And he showed me Bill Berry's favorite room for recording bass. It was the vocal room where a lot of doo-wop groups or R&B groups recorded that. But he liked the sound of his acoustic bass in that room. So when I listen to Automatic for the People, it's a great produced album. Really sounds good.
Yeah, I'm an REM fan, but, like I said, I lost track with them after a while. Just like Wilco. I'm a Wilco fan, but I lose track with Wilco. They have a new album out. I heard a couple songs, like, yeah, okay, whatever,
me and Anthony, you got me into Wilco. I got Anthony into Wilco. And we admitted their last few albums, I think there was one called Star Wars, they're kind of like getting wishy-washy, not breaking ground. I listened to the whole last album. They did change their direction. They got a producer in the studio, and I like it more than. And I don't hate any Wilco album, but they, Michael, Jeff Tweedy was kind of on autopilot.
I heard. I was a big piano ballad. I heard he was doing a soulful thing. I'm kind of tired of Jeff Tweedy's voice now. To tell you the truth,
really.
See, I'm liking it more as I get older. I don't know why.
I have to check.
All right, well, I have more random stuff if you want, Mark.
Sure, let's bring it on.
Lou.
Yeah.
Mull of Kintyre was selling 180,000 copies a day when it was a big smash hit.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah. This probably wasn't in the U.S. This was all over Europe.
I think it was all over the world. I think that was a huge. That was one of the most played songs, or the most internationally. It's got some recognition. Co-written by Danny Lane.
It was selling 180,000 copies a day. Do you believe that?
Wow. Yeah. For a very traditional song.
And Mark, Kiss. Apparently, Kiss is going to continue on virtually. So they played their last show.
Yeah.
They're going to continue virtually. It's like, wait, it's brilliant. God. Kiss on Broadway.
It's insane.
They own they own the costumes. They own those images.
Yeah.
So they're going to still be getting paid for it's brilliant.
They're going to have Kiss.
There's going to be a generic. It's going to be a generic spaceman and cat, though. It's not Peter Criss or Eric Carr. It's
correct.
Like this,
Jersey Boys. It's Jersey Boys.
Yeah, they're going to farm it out. So Gene said there'll be a Japan Kiss. There'll be a Philippine Kiss. They have to pay
Kiss in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
that's fine.
There'll be a Kiss show in Vegas, but it won't be them.
I understand that. But the AI thing, when they had the images saying "we will always be
show.
in you" or something, we will always like what
I'm in you. You're in me.
Yeah.
They want to live forever.
We suspected that was going to happen. You know,
they don't want to go away. Subject. I mean, you know, but why? In one way, I can see like, you know, they're never going to tour again. They're too old. They're too old to pull that shit off.
They're not going to do world tours anymore. Yeah.
No, but I mean, I wouldn't go see a Kiss AI show. I mean, and so apparently the technology is so that if you say to Paul, "I love you," he can say, "I love you." It can almost like respond to certain.
But think about it, like Beatlemania type thing. You know, this is Kiss. First off, they're all wearing makeup, so it looks like Paul Stanley. It looks like Gene Simmons. Yeah. They're all right-handed, so you know they don't have to have a lefty bass player or anything like that. It's all like they'll probably play in Englewood at the Bergen Pack Center. You know, the Kiss. You know, whatever they'll call themselves. What? You know, Firehouse or
Piss,
Cold Gin or something.
Oh, well, yeah, it's weird. So there won't be. There's no touring musicians. There's no. It's all technology. So this crew will come, you know, like East Coast Lighting and Sound or whatever. They'll come and set all this stuff up because it's just projections.
Well, that's a virtual thing. Yeah.
They were doing that. They did a tour with the guys in Dio's band, and they would have a image of Dio singing, and the band would play. I'm not into it. It doesn't inspire me. And the reason I say that is this whole tribute band thing. I saw a Beatles tribute band in Englewood. I think they were called Liverpool, and they come out and they dress. Wow. In the periods of the Beatles, so they come out in the black leather and they do the show. And it was a long time ago I saw it, and everyone in the crowd is going, "Yeah, yeah!" And I'm like, I can't cheer for these guys. It's not the Beatles. Like I feel like a schmuck. I'd rather go home and listen to the goddamn record and get into it. But I can't cheer for someone playing a tribute. It's not me, you know.
Well, there's the thing. There's cover bands, like you even said there. You know, there's Led Zeppelin cover bands, but you know, there's nobody playing the Robert Plant character. They're just a band. You know, that's cool. I can dig that.
Yeah. I saw a band called 1964 at the Asheville Civic Center. I took Louis to it. He was like 10. It was his birthday, and it was. I mean, it was cool, but it was the early period, so they had the suits, and you know, it was neat. I think for him. For a kid too, you know, he knows the music, but you know, he didn't get the whole live and Ed Sullivan show that we did, or years after it happened. But yeah, I know it's kind of weird, like to go see like the tribute bands, but to like cheer them like you're seeing the real thing. Yeah. It's just, you can enjoy it. I mean, I thought musically they were great till you got up close. You're like, these guys are like 60, mop tops. Like if the Beatles had aged and dyed their hair.
I think the reason too I don't like it is. Have you ever been like when you're in a cover band, it's like, okay, we're going to play this song. I'm like, you know, like I'd rather play original material. That's just where my heart's at, you know?
Yep.
That's just where I'm at. And I'm sure, like you said, there's people that love tribute bands. They see them religiously. You know, it's cheaper than seeing the real thing if the real artist is still around, you know?
And, you know, fans of the music, if your band's never going to play again.
Yeah.
You know, there's an REM, I'm sure there's REM tribute bands out there. Cover bands.
Peter Buck played with one of them, in fact.
Oh, that's funny.
Really?
It's when you adopt a persona. That's when it gets really weird, when you adopt a persona of the band.
Yeah. But Peter Buck played with a band that didn't have a Michael Stipe character. They were just a band.
Yeah, they played
REM songs. Yeah. Did you know that at the second Bill Clinton inauguration, you know, at the inauguration, there was people reading, poets or whatever. At the second Bill Clinton inauguration, one of the readers was Miller Williams, a professor of literature and poet, father of Lucinda Williams.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And who did Michael Stipe sing with at Bill Clinton's first inaugural? He did a song with somebody. A female artist that was big. Natalie Merchant did To Sir With Love.
Oh. All right, let me ask Mark. You had said to me.
Harry, hold on 1 second. If I could just interject real quick. Odd Pairs at inaugurations. Obama's inauguration, Jeff Tweedy and Mavis Staples. I remember seeing that going, whoa,
Yeah.
Jeff
He
Tweedy's
produced
at the
an
White
album
House.
for her. Yeah.
Yeah.
He
Go
was
ahead, I'm
producing
sorry.
an album for her. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had said to me about these downloads, right? Somebody got 1 million downloads. They got a check for $750 or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I got to thinking, like, was Lars Ulrich right with this Napster thing where he caught so much shit back then with Napster, but maybe he knew what was going to happen, and it's actually happening now.
You're taking money from artists.
Lars was right.
Lars was right. I was pissed at him because he had some fans arrested. But one thing he was right about is
arrested for stealing. They were pirating.
He had a Napster, someone on Napster. He had him arrested. But
right.
I got to tell you, there was when Napster started, we got a whole generation.
Well, his lawyer
of kids.
did that. He didn't do it.
Yeah. But he allowed it to happen. But we had a whole generation of kids that thought that they could just take music for free. To me, that's akin to going to a Sam Goody and taking a CD and walking out with it. And it pissed me off. And nowadays, I argue with Tom Spallone. He'll go on YouTube and download a song. I'm like, do you like it? Yeah. Did you ever think of buying it? I don't buy music. You know, I'm not quoting Tom, but we had an argument about that once.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that it's great. I think what Lars was saying was, it's like, I hate people. You don't want me to say it. I hate it when people think it's their right to just take a song freely. You got to understand, these artists got to make money. I have
he was
no
ahead
problem
of the curve. He knew it. He was right.
Yeah.
Spotify, YouTube.
Yeah. We all
Pandora, right?
You know, what sucks is that these companies are really screwing the artists, whereas the record companies, they gave a little more money, you know. Artists could be making more. It's a shame when you hear about them getting a check for $50 for 10,000 downloads. You know, that's a shame.
Right.
Peter Frampton said for like Show Me the Way or whatever, until he re-recorded some of the stuff, he wasn't getting shit.
Yeah.
I also think that, was it the 12-second rule where an artist doesn't get paid until after someone listens 12 seconds into it? It should be from
You told me that recently. Yeah, I never knew that. Yeah.
That's why there's no riffs.
But
Yeah.
so,
You gotta,
yeah,
hear that
so
you gotta hear that pop vocal from the beginning, and it doesn't shut up until the very end of the fucking song.
Tutti Frutti. Oh,
Yeah, that's my big complaints. I listen to a lot of different stuff, always in the car.
Me too.
And the modern stuff, I'm like, I was wondering a couple of years ago. I said, why are there no instrumental passages in anything anymore? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just this.
Yeah.
And you can only.
And I got to the point, like, doesn't anybody want to play the guitar anymore? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's also a disturbing trend in atonal music. There's no melodies. It's very like one tone throughout the whole song. And sometimes it works, like here and there, but not every song. You know, there's no nice melody. Nothing moves my heart anymore. A good melody will move you. You hear a good Beatles song. You don't hear that anymore. You hear it, but not as much, you know.
Yeah.
Let's face it, there's good artists out there. They're just not being promoted.
Right.
Everyone's got a chip on their friggin' shoulder.
Yeah.
It's just it's the youngsters, you know. I guess I was saying like a lot of the girls just sound unhinged and angry, and the boys sound like they don't want to get out of bed. You know, just like come on, you know.
So Lars was right, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. I wasn't, because you know, it's funny. Metallica back in the day, I don't know if you noticed, they were almost like a Grateful Dead. They encouraged bands to record their shows. They were fine with bands. They would always have an area for people to record, and they would trade the tapes. But I think you're right. When Lars saw the digital downloads starting, he went after people recording. Then they stopped it. He also, the record company probably got to him and said, you know, you got to stop this and all that. But
You got your
I
art
think his
collection.
delivery, way he talks, you know, it's a little hard to take. You
Well, if you want, I think I may have an update on that Hall & Oates thing.
yeah.
All right, let's see if anything pops up with Hall & Oates.
I think the supporters of Oates all have mustaches.
Well, this is from The Guardian, which is a British magazine. Let's see. John Oates says the planned sale was completely clandestine and bad faith move. Daryl Hall says that.
Laid out his accusations.
Yeah. Yep. It was a blatant violation of a long-standing business agreement between the pair. Yeah, I love the company's called Whole Oats Enterprises.
That's funny.
That's pretty funny. He alleged that Oates and trustees of his estate spent months falsely contending they wanted to continue owning their share. Very interesting to me.
Wait, so it was saying that up until a certain time, Oates and his people were saying, we're not going to sell, we're not going to sell.
I don't think Daryl Hall sold his stake in
Daryl Hall sold his in 2006 to the same company. It was Primary Wave.
Really?
So yeah, the whole thing was Hall sold his share first in 2006, and he didn't get as much money. I wonder if he'd be singing a different tune now if he hadn't sold, and he can get like 800 million or whatever. Would he be singing a different tune? But he didn't get what he could have gotten had he waited. But
I'm confused because Hall says this. Hall described this as an ultimate partnership to betrayal. Got a judge to issue a restraining order against the sale of Whole Oats Enterprises.
So my question is, why there's this agreement that we have not gotten the details to? Why did Hall need Oates' permission to sell Hall's portion in 2006, or did he do it on his own?
They probably agreed to it in 1972 or something.
Right, but we don't know those details. Did he say, "Look, John, I want to sell my share"? So now, but he did. So now Oates wants to sell his, but there's this thing like this long-standing agreement between that we haven't gotten details. Is the agreement that John Oates needs Daryl Hall's permission to sell his?
Well, Mark, do you want to take this one here?
Yeah. And just before I read it, I'm just going to say, Lou, I bet you that original agreement, I'd like to know if it was actually legally tendered, like put on paper, or it was a handshake agreement.
Well, it was probably on paper, but I don't think they have to release the details of it. What was the agreement? I think that's the devil right there.
Yep. Okay, so Oates filed his own response within hours, describing Hall's statements as inflammatory, outlandish, and inaccurate. He added, over the years, Daryl has consistently and publicly been adamant about being perceived as an individual rather than as part of a duo or group. Thus, he has insisted on our being known as Daryl Hall and John Oates rather than the more commonly known Hall and Oates. On this point, I agree. I now must act with truthfulness and make decisions that are right for myself, my family, and my artistic future. Gary Delabate put his fist down. Sorry, I had to say that.
But it sounds here like over the years, Daryl has consistently and publicly been adamant about being perceived as an individual. It sounds like John Oates is a little jealous there of that Daryl is Daryl.
He's always been the little guy, the silent guy.
Well, but he was also, like you said, like maybe like Andrew Ridgely, or where, I saw some live videos where, he sang a fair amount of stuff. And like Mark, you mentioned that during some shows when he'd do some solo stuff, people would go out and get a beer.
Yeah.
But if he didn't write a song, but he wrote a shit ton of these songs. So, I mean, they both have a legal claim to it. But is Daryl Hall, my thing I'm wondering is Daryl Hall this kind of big enough ego guy and some sour grapes?
I think Daryl Hall has.
Sure.
I'm sure he does.
He said he was deeply troubled by the deterioration of my relationship with and trust in John Oates, and claimed that Oates wanted to create the most harm to me with the timing of the lawsuit. Boy, it sounds like a real snip fest going on.
You know
there,
what this reminds me of, Perry? When they had that little credit card spat, Neil Schon and Jonathan Cain, the whippets going back and forth. That's what
we should have had the soap opera music, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Who's going to take this one here.
I'll try this before it collapses.
Go ahead, Lou.
He opposes the sale to Primary Wave, in particular, saying, "There is no amount of money that could compensate me for being forced to partner with an entity that I did not agree to partner with, and whose business model does not comport with my views regarding the Whole Oats, the Whole Oats assets." Yeah. He said he feared Primary Wave would use my name and likeness for branding and commercial exploitations. Primary Wave has not commented on the lawsuit. The Guardian has contacted Primary Wave for comment. So Daryl is worried about his face being used for something, but there's copyright. These are song copyrights. It's not.
It sounds to me like Daryl didn't sell to Primary Wave there.
He did. He did in 2006.
Well, what did he sell? Maybe he sold. Did you sell copyrights? Did you sell?
I understand. He sold his share of this catalog that they're in contention over.
So
all right,
this is the point that's not being addressed. It's not being addressed by any of these articles, because what I read, Daryl sold it in 2006. He said, "I'm selling my share." Did he need? did he need Oates's blessings? And if not, why does Oates need Hall's blessings? It's something.
Right.
And Daryl's worried about his likeness being used and stuff. I think he's pissed off that he just.
Mark, take
He
this
could've
one.
waited.
This is Daryl Hall in 2021.
In 2021, Hall spoke of his opposition to selling his publishing rights, telling Sky News, never sell your publishing. Maybe if you're, 80 years old and you decide to retire, then you can sell your publishing. But I wouldn't even suggest it then. I don't believe in that concept. It's all you have.
He doesn't believe in it now. He believed in it then because he did it.
Well, maybe he didn't sell his publishing. Maybe he sold his copyrights to where they can use it in commercials. And
Oh God,
You
we
know?
discussed
Have
this.
they
There's
been
so many
using-
different
Have they
things.
been using Hall and Oates in commercials?
I have no idea.
I could see Maybelline using Kiss on my list, right? That could end up,
But I don't recall hearing Private Eyes done on anything for. But I was on the. I guess it's an assumption. I have to go back and read it. That Daryl sold his publishing. It was
I read something like that too. I did,
because
yeah.
Hall Oates is a publishing,
But I just don't know if he was selling the same thing that Oates is selling.
right? Well, what's involved in publishing? If the three of us write a song, it's Klikio, Dedovich, and Smith. If I sell my share of the publishing, I'm out. You guys have your share left.
But that's different from a copyright, though.
Right.
Yeah.
But we don't know if that involved copyrights. But I
So
thought I read
Daryl Hall did
publishing.
not sell his publishing to Primary
No,
Wave.
no, I
He may
read
have
that he
sold
did.
copyrights.
No, I read he sold his publishing.
That's
All right, well,
I
we're gonna
read
have
that
to
too.
dig deeper into this
Yeah.
for a future episode.
To be continued on the
Yeah.
next episode.
To me, this is conjecture. To me, it sounds like he's pissed off because he didn't get a whole lot of money out of it.
Music
now-
Relish Courthouse.
And now John Oates is looking to maybe get a nice windfall.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. I still say, all joking aside, I think that John Oates and Gary Delabate are the same person. I think that
Yes.
Oates was just running to the studio.
right.
one morning. I saw a picture of the two of them together when Hall and Oates were on Stern Show, and
That's funny.
even the teeth, everything.
Maybe that's why John shaved it.
All right, Perry, is that it for your random relish?
You know who Stanley Jordan is?
Oh, plays with his fingers, taps. Yeah.
I don't know. I thought I had a clip of Stanley Jordan playing something.
Very unique guitar player.
Yeah, he was. I don't know. He's one of these guys where he does that hammer on. I guess that's what it's called, right?
He doesn't pick the string at all. All he's playing, I wouldn't even say hammer on. He just plays with he plays with 8 fingers, so he can do a running bass line tapping, and then he can do the solo over it. But he plays, his right hand that would normally pick is up on the neck. So he's doing this all the time. I saw him in concert. He's really good. I mean, it's just unorthodox. It's like
You
nobody else
actually
does.
saw him doing that kind of stuff?
Saw him at Montclair State University, and he played Stairway to Heaven like that. And
Really?
he did it jazzy. When
He's a
he
jazz
plays,
guy.
when he taps, it sounds like he's picking. So he just said, "I'm going to learn guitar, and I'm not going to pick. I'm going to tap." Really good player.
Yeah, I've seen a film of him where he's like, it's all this, and he was playing like Eleanor Rigby, but he was going,
Yeah.
and he's orchestrating it on the guitar.
And he's able to play all by himself. And you don't need a bass player because he's doing the bass lines.
Right.
Dun, dun, dun. He does traditional jazz. He does Miles Davis songs, and he's up there. He's just an amazing guitar player. Amazing.
Yeah.
I thought he was a bass player. Get mixed up with somebody.
Yeah.
No, you know what? I think, I know what you mean, Lou, because there's a famous jazz bass player named, maybe it's him. Maybe he is a bass player and a guitar player and all that
Yeah,
stuff,
he's
right?
playing
I think it's Stanley Clark, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably it.
Stanley Clark was amazing.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
amazing.
you're right. It's
So
Stanley
live.
Clark. Yeah, yep.
He did an album where Jeff Beck was on. Yeah, Cry of Love album. Great album. But I guess the video's not working, huh?
No, that was just a still photo of
He came
him.
on the scene, I'd say in the late 80s. There was a time in the late 80s where everyone was doing different things on guitar. So what is that? That's very disturbing.
I have no idea what that is.
It's like part of
Looks
a
like
dog.
a horse's tail. I don't want to know.
I have no idea what that was.
Perry, did you accidentally open up your My Pictures folder?
That was Stanley Jordan. That was.
Oops.
Oops.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know something, when I saw him at Montclair College, you'd
Yeah.
think that an hour and a half with just one guy on stage would get boring. Never got boring.
Oh, he has no band. It was just him and a
Him,
guitar.
and he just, to hear him do the jazz, I mean, you know, he was just starting to get into, he was just traditional jazz when he first started, Blue Note
Yeah.
Records. That album, you know, he started to want to get on the radio. We had a radio station at the time in New York called CD 101.9. It was
Yeah, I
a
remember
smooth
that.
jazz. And even traditional
I hate
jazz
it.
artists felt the pressure to get their stuff played. So Stanley started to do some a little smoother stuff, but he was still great. He kept his integrity. He never sold out.
Yeah, yeah.
And he did that Stairway to Heaven. And it was so weird. Like, for a time, you drive your car, you put on CD 101.9, you'd hear Stairway to Heaven in jazz. It's pretty good. Check it out. It's pretty interesting.
I thought CD 101 was really soft when it came out.
Me too.
I was
Me
like,
too.
okay, this is real. I listen to Spa and stuff. It's amazing how things change. You know, I'll listen to the chill station.
Yeah, me too. My
Um,
thing is integrity. I just still will never ever give Kenny G any. That
No,
if he comes on off, it goes off. I don't like Kenny G.
No,
But a lot of those smooth jazz players that I dismissed early on, they're really good.
Do you know who Graham Gouldman is? Lou, I know you know who he is, right?
yes,
He
wasn't he
was
one
in
of these?
10cc,
10cc. That's it.
right? Mark? Graham
Yep.
Gouldman, right? Wrote him Not in Love. Do you know how many other songs he's written?
Do tell.
Was he the one that stayed in the band after Godley and Cream left? He
I
stayed
don't
with the band?
know. I don't
Okay.
know, but I know Graham Gouldman, right? He wrote For the Yardbirds, For Your Love, For Your Love. He co-wrote it with someone. He also wrote Heart Full of Soul for the Yardbirds.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yep. Graham
Wow.
Gouldman, the guy from 10cc, free 10cc. Get this, he wrote Bus Stop, Hollies, Bus
Wow.
Stop, they say love goes under my umbrella. Graham Gouldman. He also wrote Hollies, Look Through Any Window, yeah. Look
Oh,
what
wow.
you see. And Hermits, No Milk Today, Gonna Go Away.
That's a great
He
song.
wrote that
No
one,
milk
too.
today, my love is gone
Yep.
away. That's a
Graham
great
Gouldman
song.
wrote
Actually.
that one too.
Wow, that's pretty cool, man.
Yep. And he also got hired by the
Did he write Henry
Super
VIII?
K Productions, you know, the bubblegum guys.
Yeah.
And he wrote a song called Sausalito for the Yummy Yummy people. They wrote
The 1910
recorded a
Fruit
song
Company?
called Sausalito. And it was written by Graham
Sausalito.
Gouldman.
Sugar.
Not to be confused with Mendocino.
But he wrote all those hits, Graham Gouldman. For Your Love, Yardbirds, Heart Full of Soul, Yard Bus Stop, Look Through Any Wind. That's a great song. And No Milk Today. He also wrote, you know, those 10cc hits too, right?
Yeah.
Well, after Godley and Cream left, they had a hit with The Things We Do for Love. I believe he
Oh, yeah.
wrote that.
He wrote that, and he wrote I'm Not in Love also.
I'm not in love.
Yeah.
And then what was that Jamaican?
They had some other
Nation-
weird song
Oh,
titles.
Dreadlock
Yeah.
Holiday. Dreadlock Holiday.
Yeah,
That's a good
yeah.
I don't
song.
like reggae. I love it.
Yeah. They were he
Oh,
carried the
that's
band.
that song? Okay, I should have
Yeah.
known that. Yeah.
Yeah.
he carried the band pretty good after Godley and Cream left. They did some good music.
I'll be back in a
Later.
minute.
They made some groundbreaking videos too, Godly and Cream,
Yeah.
in that format. It's pretty cool, like to write that
Cry or
kind of early 60s pop stuff. And then, you know, 10cc was a pretty advanced record, just their use of vocals. Like, I'm
Yeah.
Not in Love, all that background stuff is all vocals mostly.
Yep.
All those, you think it might be a keyboard or a synthesizer, but
No.
there was that too. But
And that middle
no.
part with Big Boys Don't Cry, that was totally a teenage angst coming out. Big Boys Don't
Yeah.
Cry. And, you know, and you think, my first love.
I think when that record came out, Playboy magazine said that was one of the top love-making records.
Really? And isn't The Things We Do for Love just one of the perfect pop songs?
It is great. Absolutely. Absolutely. I still
was
like
the
hearing
first-
that too.
It was the first release after Godley and Cream left. Like,
Really?
hey, we don't need you guys.
Well, that's good that,
Would-
you know, you can do that. You know, 'cause some
Yeah.
people leave and it's just never the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is how's the relish? Is it still in the bowl, or have you used up all that relish there?
Relish. I'm out of relish.
Okay, it sounds like we might have a show.
God,
Yeah.
I hope so.
Hey, listen,
I need to leave
Lou,
now.
you are the trooper. You are the trooper. Thank you
Hey,
for
Yeah.
doing that.
Oh no, yeah, no. You know, I'm grateful that this happened now. As opposed, I was saying 3 years ago. You know, I have asthma. And
Yeah.
I'll still be knocking on wood. You know, but I just feel like I have a bad cold. But I feel it just wipes you out.
It takes a lot out of you, more than a bad cold.
Well, let's see
Yeah.
if I can get some something.
Graduate to my head now.
Yeah.
You're starting to sound more like Bono.
The
Name of this band is you too.
No milk today. It'll make me very phlegmy.
No milk today.
I got my fireplace on. It's 84 degrees in my living room.
Nice. It's
I turned the main heat off in the whole house, but I just have this going. This is. I'm like, I looked at my wall from thermostat. It was 84. I'm like, this is nice and toasty. Makes you feel better.
Wow.
So if you guys ever do come down in the wintertime, we have a fireplace.
cool. I think it's more snowy down there than it is up here.
Louis and I had school. They've called school like two times already. He didn't go to school today.
Oh.
They had in the upper elevations. They had ice.
Really?
Because out my front deck, you can see up in the higher mountains. It's called hoarfrost. It looks like snow, but it's just precipitation on the mountaintops. So it looks like snow, but it's not.
Oh, that's cool.
In other words, a hoarfrost.
How do you make a hoarfrost?
Don't pair.
But horrible
the-
joke of the day.
We need the
All right,
sound
so what are we
effects.
doing today, man? We talked about REM, and I'm going to listen to that album again.
Yeah. We talked
So,
about
it's a great trivia, man. That was good trivia.
Yeah.
I failed miserably, and I love it because I learned. Hated
we
albums.
did have some
and when
trivia. Yep.
Anyone out there, if you say your favorite band put on an album you don't like, revisit it 10 years later. You never know. You might like it. Put yourself in their headspace when they released it, you know? Like
Hindsight.
Judas Priest wanted to be a hair metal band. They decided it. I mean, who am I to say, So
Well, yeah, it was an oddball show today. Yeah.
I got to say, I know you're trying to cue up the song Kiss. I was going back and forth
No,
between
I got
Music
nothing.
from the
I got
Elder.
nothing.
Oh, and Unmasked. That was another album that they put out that no one liked, but I loved Unmasked. It was a great pop album, and I went with Music from the Elder. Well, anyway, Perry, you got the picture of the streams we're on? Because I'd like to read it, but I can't remember because I have no memory since I heard 54.
Well, we'll just
Well,
have
basically,
to say, we'll do it
if
from
you like-
memory.
If you like what you heard, click like and subscribe, whatever platform you're on, whatever you're listening to, we're on every week. We're on that platform. So you subscribe on YouTube, you'll be notified when the show's out. You'll know about it. So we really appreciate it. Email, Perry, what's the email?
MusicRelish at gmail.com.
musicrelish@gmail.com. Even if you don't like it, send us criticism. We can take it all. If you want to say, Mark has a fat neck, that's fine. That's all fine. You can say whatever you want. We just like to hear from you. And we will respond to you.
Yeah, it's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music,
Podchaser.
Amazon Alexa, Overcast, Podchaser, Pocket Cast,
Odyssey.
YouTube, and
Did we say Spotify?
Yeah, Facebook. Yeah,
We're on all those sites.
Facebook. Yeah.
But Facebook just links you back to the YouTube. So listen on YouTube.
Yep.
When does Mardi Gras start? Isn't that February? Or did I miss it? We miss it.
March.
It's March. We should do the New Orleans show. Let's set it back, maybe.
I think
You
that's a
made
great idea.
good idea.
That's a
Save
great
it
idea.
for Fat Tuesday.
Fat
Right?
Tuesday.
Yeah.
We'll make
Yeah.
gumbo. I'll eat a bowl of gumbo while we're doing it.
Interesting. Yeah.
Gumbo would loosen my sinuses up nicely right now.
It would be ugly, though. It would be just pouring out.
I'd end up eating half my mucus and it would be dripping through the bowl.
Would it look like that night with the Walkman and the Chinese food?
Too much. It was 14 suffering bastards that made me vomit. So
Boom, bam, ba-dum, boom.
Wait, was that that's a Johnny Carson thing, right? Johnny Carson.
what's that?
When he gets pulled over for drunk driving, I had two zombos.
These were Mai Tais.
Yeah.
Zombo
I had two
was
Mai
the guy from the Munsters.
over at the Grauman's Chinese.
Yeah, I was at the Oriental Luau.
Oh,
in Old Tappan, New Jersey. Old Tappan. I
remember
love
that place,
place.
man.
Yep.
What was the one on Old Hook Road? Hong Hing.
Hong Hing was great. That was the best around.
No, but
And
that
I
was
think-
when I was we
came
were
a
visiting
fucking
Lou
sports
in North Carolina, and they had one restaurant in Nashville just called Oriental Restaurant.
Yeah.
Very generic.
No one ate there.
What I remember about what Hong Hing was, you would go in there and I'd order takeout, and they say, "How long do you want it to take?" And I'd go, "Make it take an hour. I can have a few drinks."
Yes.
Next thing, you're on an empty stomach. You've drank. You're turning onto Old Hook Road, which is basically a
Yep.
4-lane highway, and you're
It's a
making a
freeway.
left, and you're buzzed. You're like, "Oh my god, I'm
Shit,
gonna
yeah.
get fucking killed!" And there's a cemetery right next door too.
You spent more than $50 on food too. I think I went out there. I had to spend $50. I would get shrimp toast because they made the best.
Well, it's been real, and it's been wonderful. We bid you good night. See you next week on The Music Relish Show.